All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the July Coffee Break with the Hub. Today we are going to be discussing tips for finding the best partnerships for your grant proposal. On the agenda, we will begin with a definition of what we mean by partnerships when it comes to sponsored programming. We'll look at the 4 different types of partnerships, and then we'll take a closer look at 2 of these partnerships and the tools that we have available for you to use when you are in the grant proposal process. 3 things to keep in mind throughout this discussion as you're thinking about project partners. So always remember your target project population and to clearly identify the roles and contributions of each partner, and then work to develop lasting professional relationships for any possible future funding opportunities. First, let's start out by clearly defining what a partnership is. A working definition of a partnership is a collaborative relationship between entities to work towards shared objectives through a mutually agreed division of labor. Partnerships and collaborations are essential components of a successful grant proposal. Most funders require at least 1 or more partners, with some federal opportunities requesting up to 10. Having partnerships and in-kind resources strengthens your project's approach and can give you a huge advantage and greater visibility among grant-seeking organizations. So here are the 4 types of partnerships in sponsored programming. First is collaboration partnerships, where there's greater autonomy and no permanent organizational commitment among the partners. An example would be an organizational partnership, where you share information, you're coordinating your efforts, but there's no shared, transferred, or combined services, governances, resources, or programs. Your administrative functions have no integration, but you do ensure commitment to one another via letters of commitment or support, as they're sometimes called. A second example of a partnership is called a strategic alliance. This is where decision-making power is shared or transferred among the partners. An example would be joint programming, where the management of the program of mutual interest to participating organizations' mission is shared, and there's administrative consolidation of that particular program, but the partners themselves still operate independently of one another. A third example is a subrecipient relationship. One of its main characteristics is that it's sort of a parent-child or grantor-grantee type relationship. An example would be a multi-stakeholder community program where one organization manages the work of the other organizations. The sub-grantee is accountable to the grantee for the use of the funds provided, and the sub-grantee's work scope and budget is written into the project proposal. And lastly, we have cost sharing or grant match partnerships. This is an example when one organization provides certain resources to support the overall work of the main recipient. An example would be a university that provides the facilities or faculty for a community group's project. A grant match occurs when one organization provides a grant and the other recipient provides a match in services, cash, maintenance, voluntary effort, or supplies, but often it's not terribly reciprocal. There's not much given in return for this support. So let's take a closer look into collaborative partnerships. Collaborative partners are government, health, education, faith-based, business and industry, social and human services agencies at local, regional, and state levels that commit in writing via letters of commitment or letters of support to use their resources to help your organization better deliver the services funded by a grant. Many times, a funding opportunity will expect you to have up to 10 collaborative partners. This means they expect you to find 10 community or state-level organizations that agree to support your project. In this instance, support means they will be involved in one specific objective of your proposed project, like at a resource fair, or your proposal is addressing a complex issue that requires coordinating multiple stakeholders, and these partners agree to participate as those stakeholders. When finding a collaborative partner, look for an agency that already serves all or part of your target population. Also, make sure to select partners that have a history and background in your specific grant application area for each grant or cooperative agreement you plan to pursue. Start with organizations you're already familiar with, but go into each conversation with a defined need of your partnership so you have a clear idea of what you're looking for. In defining the need for a partnership, you should not only think about what the partnership can accomplish as a whole, but also concrete benefits to your organization in particular. In each potential partnership, you should be able to answer the following questions. What are our short-term goals? I mean, what does our organization need to accomplish or gain in the next 12 months to stay engaged? And what are our long-term goals? What does our organization need to accomplish or gain in the next 18 to 36 months to stay engaged in the partnership? Once you have a potential funding opportunity in front of you, read that RFP thoroughly to determine if a list of partners has already been made for you. Some RFPs will have hard partnerships in place, some will just list recommended partnerships, and some will discuss how these partnerships will be used to score your proposal. Do note that these elements may be scattered throughout the proposal, so be sure to read the whole RFP when you're looking for who to partner with. Here's an example of an RFP from USDA Rural Development for a Business Cooperative Service Program. As you can see, it isn't until page 3 where suggested community partnerships are discussed. Here they recommend seeking out the advice, participation, expertise, and assistance of representatives of business, industry, educational institutions, the federal government, and state and local governments. Later on page 5, the RFP asks you to address networking with other cooperative development centers and other organizations involved in rural economic development efforts. And then again, on the last page of the RFP, in the scoring criteria section, the RFP notes that you'll receive higher marks if you demonstrate strong support from potential beneficiaries and formal evidence of intent to coordinate with other developmental organizations. So from just a quick reading of that RFP, we compile a list of required or recommended partners to reach out to: business and industry, educational institutions, federal government, state and local government, other cooperative development centers, orgs involved in rural economic development efforts, and other developmental organizations. The next step, once you have this list, is to think about your area. Who in your area would be the best fit to fill these roles? This project is looking to fund rural business incubators throughout the United States. So a good idea would be to partner with the largest employers in your area or companies in the industry you are targeting. This worksheet, which is available in the Funding Resource Hub's toolbox on the website under the Proposal Enhancement Toolkit, is helpful in helping you organize your contact list. With this worksheet, you can track who you've been working with at an organization, what method of contact you've been using, and what you have discussed, so you are up to date on what you need from each one of your partners. Once you've found potential partners, it's time to convince them to support you. Do this by preparing some talking points, outlining the grant program and how their partnership can contribute to your program. Prepare a grant fact sheet to take with you as you meet with potential partners so that they have full insight as to what a potential partnership means for you and the project to be successfully funded and implemented. While you are in the early stages of writing your grant, give your partners plenty of time to develop a strong letter of support or commitment that states their support for your grant application and outlines how they will contribute to your grant. The old method of grant seeking was to identify a ton of community partners who would agree to write a generic and somewhat weak letter of support. The new and improved way to create partnerships is with collaborative partners who agree to provide letters of commitment to support your grant application that outline specifically how they will support your project and what resources, if any, they will contribute. Letters of support are an essential part of your application. Without such letters, reviewers could, and often do, conclude that individuals named in the proposal have not committed themselves to work in the ways you have described in your proposal. One suggestion I found from the Grant Writers Workbook USDA NIFA version was to personally draft your own letters of support. It may seem a little strange, but they gave 3 really strong reasons why. First of all, no one knows better than you why a given letter of support is needed and what it must specifically address. Secondly, you can't afford a poorly written letter of support from someone. You don't want that to be the reason why you weren't funded. And thirdly, the example that you provide will save the intended author the time he or she would need to spend to write a strong letter of support. And almost without exception, that person will be grateful that you've done this for them. When approaching a collaborative partner, offer to draft up an example of what is needed. Deliver it by email with the clear expression that he or she can scrap it and start over, modify it, or use it as written. In other words, the choice will be up to them whether they want to embellish it or start over new. Most of the time, the choice will be to embellish what you have provided, which will only make your letter stronger. So key tip on that one, though, but before we leave the letter of support conversation, be sure that if you are going to write out your own letters of support and have your partners just tweak them, that these letters are on their letterhead and that they are substantially different from one another. So use different fonts, choice of words, or different writing style. You don't want your panel reviewers to notice that each one of your letters of support is basically saying the same thing. All right, now we're going to dive into what a subrecipient relationship looks like. A subrecipient relationship is appropriate when substantive programmatic work or an important or significant portion of the program or project is being undertaken by another entity. The entity retains some element of programmatic control and discretion over how the work is carried out, and the entity commits to a good faith effort to complete the design or conduct of the project. Or the entity makes independent decisions regarding how to implement the requested activities, and a principal investigator has been identified at the entity and functions as a co-investigator. There are formal steps that must be taken when engaging a subrecipient in a grant proposal. These steps can be found on the OES SharePoint website, but they boil down to making sure you complete a subrecipient subcontractor questionnaire, that you've completed the subrecipient commitment form, and that you've checked with SAM.gov to be sure that the subrecipient is not barred from receiving federal funding. A quick note here is that there's always added time commitment when you involve subrecipients, so be sure to work that into your timeline when you're preparing your proposal. So here are some tools that are available for you to use when you are looking to find partners. To find collaborators within Extension, of course, there's the staff directories from the different UW Extension divisions and programs, such as the one from Cooperative Extension, which is really great because you can search for colleagues by their area of expertise, which can really make your hunt much faster. If you're looking for state or local collaborators, think about the different associations you may be a member of. Oftentimes they will have posted right on their website other members of that association, and those are great partners to reach out to. Flex your Rolodex and make some contacts with your colleagues that work in that area. We also have the Cost Pivot tool that we can use to look for academic partners. You go onto the Cost Pivot website, and this is on your homepage, click on Profiles, and there you'll get all the different departments and programs at UW-Madison. Scroll down to find the center or school you're looking for. Here we're going to just do School of Human Ecology and see who's in the Center for Financial Security. And there you'll see profiles of different scholars whose expertise is in this field. Click on one of those profiles. You'll get a little more in-depth information on exactly what they're researching, what their papers have been on, where their affiliations are, and importantly, how you can contact them. These profiles are opt-in. You have to claim your profile to be added to the site. There are instructions on the side of the website that walk you through how to add your information to your own personal profile. You log into your account and then follow the instructions on the webpage. The more information you include in your profile, the more other people will be able to find you and connect with you when they're writing their own grant proposal. So here's a few key tips for all partnerships. Be sure to establish ahead of time the roles and responsibilities that you expect of your partners. Take an inventory of the resources, human, financial, technology, their partners will provide. When you are engaging with a subrecipient, be sure to draft a formal memorandum of understanding and that you're engaging that subrecipient in the development of the budget and scope of work in the grant proposal. And with all partners, always be sure to keep the line of communication open. In conclusion, most funders want to see a partnership in some form. Read that RFP thoroughly to see if there are specific instructions on who you are to partner with. Collaborations usually only include just a letter of commitment, while subrecipient partners require formal documentation. We have tools for you to use throughout the process, so never hesitate to contact me at the Funding Resource Hub. There's my information. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the July coffee break. I look forward to seeing you in August.